Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I am here today with Jay Rawe. I was fortunate enough to have downloaded a Matchstick Productions film, which I do every year, which for those of you who don't know is a ski film. And Jay rips, but Jay's different. Jay rides on a sitski. So to watch him throw a backflip in a sitski, my mind was blown. So I'm really excited to talk with Jay today about where he is now, where he came from, and the direction he's headed. Jay, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man.
So you're a Florida guy.
Yep.
And let's just start off by not many Florida folks end up in the snow unless it's by accident.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You, born and raised Florida, you decided to look to base jumping. Like, how did that all come about?
Oh man, I don't really know where the idea got started, but when I was little, I always liked climbing up trees and roofs and jumping off stuff, and I always just had this urge to fly. So I kind of started looking into different ways to do it, and found out that with base jumping, you could go jump off buildings. It was kind of like this like sneak mission type deal. I was super into it. So got into skydiving, did a couple hundred jumps, and then learned how to base jump with my buddies.
So for a lot of folks out there who may not understand what base jumping is, can you explain the basis of it?
Yes. So base is an acronym. It stands for building, antenna, span, and earth, and a span being a bridge. And each of those are four fixed objects that you would go jump off of with a single parachute system.
And that parachute system is usually held in your hand and you throw it.
It can be. There's a lot of different ways that you can jump, depending on the height of the object or what your goal is during the jump. There's a static line where you can attach the bridle, which is attached to the little parachute, the first one that you throw out. It's called the pilot chute. So you would attach the static line to whatever object you're jumping off of. And when you jump, it breaks after pulling the parachute out, and then you're open pretty high. You can go handheld, where you hold the pilot chute in your hand and you jump, pitch it, or you can have it stowed in the bottom of a container pouch, the BOC, and jump off, and that's where you reach back and pitch.
So how many base jumps had you completed? Like, how many of those had you done?
So before my accident, I had like 360 some odd jumps.
That's huge. So like, to base jump, you first have to be certified as a skydiver, correct? You learn the process, you learn how to pack your chute, you go through the whole, I mean, this isn't something that you can just do overnight.
Yeah, no, I mean, the people that just get right into base jumping, they call it a death camp. Base is kind of a disorganized, unregulated sport that's more of self-regulation. So it's recommended that you have 200 skydives. And the reason for that being that when you're jumping off of an object, you might not necessarily have the wide open field to land in. You might have to bring it down between trees or navigate power lines and other, obstacles. So it's better to have the experience under your belt before getting into the sport.
Which I think is really, I mean, that's a lot of what that I've been talking about on this podcast. It's like having the legs and the history of understanding to do things prior to making these big, huge leaps, right? And I think this is a really perfect example. It's like, how many jumps? You're jumping out of a plane. Like, I've always wanted to do it. I'm completely scared shitless of it. And base jumping, I've always been enamored by, but there's no way. I've bungee jumped. Okay, you got a big giant rubber band attached to your ankles and you bounce around like a pogo stick upside down and feel like a barf. But you just took it up, like you're just going and going. I mean, did you, as you were doing these different jumps, were you going lower to the ground? Were you going higher? Was it more, because I've seen all the sneaky games you got to play to get to some of these places jump. I mean, we all know you got to jump a fence or you got to sneak into a building with a backpack that's not nobody knows. Like, I've seen it all. Like, I know all the tricks.
Yeah.
But like, how many of those, and how did that span over time?
So you're talking about just specifically the base jumping?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, growing up in Florida, we either had antennas, which, are like the radio antennas or the TV antennas, or we had buildings. And buildings were hard to get access to, especially being a young guy in the sport. When you get information on how to get into these things, you keep it real close and real quiet until you're sure that the person you're jumping with isn't going to mess it up for everyone. So pretty much we found this app that had information on all of the towers, the antenna towers and the radio towers and TV towers, and it would tell you the height and the location of these things. So you could look at a map and see, okay, well, I'm 2 hour drive from this one, and you do all the research. You look at the fields, you look and see where the landing areas are, what kind of winds you're going to need, and when the weather matches up with the conditions that you need, you go out in the middle of the night and climb up these things in the dark and jump before anyone's even awake.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you had whole slew of skydiving, whole slew of base jumping, and then you had an accident.
Yeah.
And are you comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to explain to everybody, there are, even as trained as you were, shit goes pear-shaped, right?
Yeah. I mean, this one went bad for a lot of reasons. The first being that typically when I jumped, I was jumping by myself. I was living in Twin Falls, Idaho, where there's a bridge called the Perrine Bridge. It's 486 feet. It's a huge span bridge over the Snake River, and you're allowed to jump off of it any time of the day or night. The county's super cool with it, and they just let people. It's a huge attraction from all over the world. So it's fairly safe. I mean, you're jumping over the water. You got a decent amount of time before you have to pull your parachute, and everything that I did was kind of incrementally like stepped up. So any skills that I was trying to add, I was doing them a little at a time. This one, me and my buddy were walking under the bridge. We're 2 minutes away from jumping, and we're like, hey, let's jump together. Like, okay, so we're gonna jump at the same time. And then I get this idea, well, how about I stand on your shoulders and I'll hold my pilot chute in my right hand and your pilot chute in my left, and then we'll just fall off. I'll throw my pilot chute, it'll open my parachute, and then I'll pull your parachute and you'll open up underneath me, and then we'll just fly in together. Sounded super awesome. So we talked about this for maybe 30 seconds. You know what I mean? It wasn't a super planned thing. I stood on his shoulders to make sure that I was stable up there. And I'm like, okay, cool. The worst that can happen, I'll fall into the canyon. I'll let your pilot chute go. You'll open up above me. I'll take it low and toss mine. And, it'll go bad, but it won't go bad. I didn't think about the fact that I needed to initiate the fall. So when he leaned forward and it kind of kicked me backwards, and it just started a shit show. I tried to jump off of his shoulders and land on the bridge. His bridle got wrapped around my leg, and when I jumped off of him, I pushed him into the canyon. So he's falling, his parachute's coming out, I'm bouncing off the bridge. Everything's kind of going really bad, and then I flipped over and landed inside of his parachute, which collapsed it, caused him to go back into free fall with me. I kicked out of his parachute, my parachute opened and into his and kind of tangled, and we fell the rest of the way and hit the ground.
Wow. And that was what year?
2014.
So now, we're 2022, which is, that's, you've had years since then. I know that you've been, you're doing some crazy stuff right now, and I kind of want you to explain your road to where you are now, because you were doing something that is, base jumping is like heralded all over the world. People are doing crazy things. They go from base jumping to squirrel suits, and they're flying, and and I'm assuming that was your next goal, was to get to that point.
Yep.
And I would love for you to share with everybody like what you went through from that point to where you are right now, because what you're doing right now, it's really powerful. And I think you've overcome a lot of obstacles to get to this point. And you're also really happy doing it, because the look on your face when you're doing it is priceless.
Thanks. Yeah, man. It was a tough road, to be honest. Right off the bat, they took me in a boat up to the hospital. There's like a little drop off point that's a mile away from the local hospital. Went into surgery immediately and was transferred within a week to Tampa, where my family lives. Spent some time in the inpatient therapy ward there and did outpatient rehab. And right off the bat, I felt like, yeah, this is fine. I'll be good in like 6 months. I'll be back to normal, like 100%. And they're telling me, no, man, you're gonna be lucky if you walk very well anymore. I had a incomplete spinal cord injury, so my L5 nerve group, peripheral, which means it was out of the spinal cord, was what was damaged. So my glutes, hamstrings, and calves were pretty severely affected, as well as my anterior tibialis, which is what lifts your foot up. So I've got drop foot on my left side. I got to wear an AFO brace to walk around with. Those things were all affected, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to be back to 100%. Like, just watch. And just watching the months roll by and the progress not stacking the way I wanted to, it was pretty exhausting mentally to deal with that. I got in a pretty dark place for a little while, just not knowing what my life was going to be. Here I was, jumping off of cliffs and buildings and bridges with my friends, and planning on, like you're saying, doing the wingsuit stuff in Europe, and just had a pretty solid progression plan set up for where I wanted to be. And seeing that all just kind of disappear was pretty big. A lot to deal with. So it was a few years down the road. Was living at my mom's house, really no purpose, and my girlfriend and I took a road trip, and my mom's like, hey, you should check out sit skiing. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that, because all the videos that I saw this.
How did your mom come to find sit skiing? That's a really interesting, like, yeah, you live in Florida. Your mom's like, why don't you go sit skiing?
That's actually, a pretty sad story as well. When I was like 15, a couple of buddies of mine got in a car accident. One of them passed away, and the other one ended up with brain damage, and he's still alive to this day. They weren't sure if he was going to make it, and his mom is really supportive. She takes him out and gets him active and does all these things with him, takes him to do all these, different experiences, just on the, hoping that if he's in there, he's going to be having a decent time, kind of a deal. So she told my mom about sit skiing, and my mom relayed that to me. And I'm watching and I'm seeing the videos of just people getting pushed down the hill. And from a person who liked to consider myself pretty independent, it just seemed like it was not the way I wanted to spend my time, And I had the wrong impression of it. Honestly, I was just watching little videos, and I found a video that Josh Dewick put out. He was the first guy to ever do a backflip on a sit ski. And when I saw that, it clicked. I'm like, wow, okay, so you can do cool stuff on these things. Like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And yeah, so on the road trip, we went to Snowbird, Utah, Wasatch Adaptive Sports Center there. They gave me my lesson, and I started falling in love with it. I was like, man, this is cool. I'm kind of decent at this. Like, I was a snowboarder before. I'd never skied, but I understood the edge control and how to kind of maneuver the thing. And it's like, you know what? I don't have anything else going for me right now. I'm going to move to hang out with my buddy in Tahoe, who says they got snow until July. Like, I'll spend a season trying to do this, and just kind of never left here. It's been 4 years going on 5. I'm like, this place is cool.
So, you now you're consistently working towards that next level. And I think, I talk a lot openly about mental health and mental health awareness and my own mental health. And in fact, I go to crazy school. I mean, I want you to talk a little bit about how you got yourself out of the dark place, because I think that's really important for people to realize. Everybody gets there. Everybody has that moment in life, and how you get out of it. Like I consistently say, the measure of one's success is how we learn to deal with problems. And I think, perfect example, you've learned to address these problems piece by piece and move forward. So I think that would really help a lot of the listeners out there.
Yeah. I mean, the base jumping lifestyle doesn't really lead to sobriety. Generally, a lot of us like to party and hang out. So I was living in a place where people traveled to on vacation, and we had a house, so people would come over and party at our house. We were drinking a lot and partying a lot, and that kind of transferred over. You know, I had some substance issues when I was a kid, and just really liked to take it as far as I could. So after I got hurt, I had nothing to do, nowhere to be, back in my hometown, hanging out with friends that, you know, on their weekends they were going to the bars, and they're like, "Hey Jay, you want to come?" So I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." You know, big smile on the outside, but on the inside, I'm just trying to drink away my sorrows, and it was it's pretty heavy. You know, it's pretty hard to find another way out of that. So when I found sit skiing, it gave me something different to look forward to in my day than like, okay, what time are my friends off work? Like, okay, what time can we go to the bar, or can we go play pool, or whatever, you know? Um, and it kind of, I don't know, there's something about getting hurt and having like a good support system around you that feels like, it's not like you're being pitied, but like you're being like included in a way that you're like, I just felt like watching my friends kind of wait for me on the corners when I'm walking, you know, super, super slow, just trying my hardest to get there, that I was like, man, I don't like this feeling. Like I appreciate them for the love and the caring that they're showing, but it made me feel bad inside that I couldn't keep up and I couldn't do things at the same pace that I used to. So with sit skiing, like it kind of flipped the script, and like now they're waiting on me, or I'm waiting on them at the bottom. You know, I'm blowing by everyone. I'm like, they're stoked to see how fast I'm going and cruising. I'm stoked that I'm going that fast, and it kind of started the shift, you know, of my like self-worth and my confidence, I guess.
And I think that's a really, really great point. I think self-worth and self-confidence really alleviates a lot of those things, you know, taking that look in the mirror and feeling it. So you still continuously have to do PT. You're consistently working towards muscle strength and things on a regular basis. And I think can you share a little bit about that and the importance of that process for you?
Yeah, for sure. That was another big thing with the mental. You know, it's kind of depressing going to the gym every day and seeing my upper body have great results, and my lower body just barely ticking along. And I stopped for a long time. I stopped going to the gym. I kind of justified it like, well, I can move, I can walk, you know, I'm not getting any stronger. And that was just false. It was just my ego trying to make sense of where I was, and not be hurt, because it's painful when you go from being extremely strong, you know, in the lower body sense. I was hiking out of canyons every single day, climbing, you know, had really good strength in the lower body, to barely being able to push 10 pounds, you know, on the squat machine, and like not being able to do, you know, more than 5 or 10 pounds on the hamstrings. It's exhausting mentally to put that much effort in and see that little results. But I think I've reached a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm appreciative of all the little gains, and I know that the small things stack up into large things, and you can't get to the big gains without the small gains. So I kind of refocused my energy this year. Obviously, COVID, you know, threw me off the workout game, and I used that excuse for a little while to be out of the gym. But man, I got in touch with my guys at High Fives. They're putting me through physical therapy up there. I got a gym membership this year, so I'm making a really, really conscious effort to just focus on it and not let the little words inside the head stop me from making the progress I need to make.
So let's talk a little bit about Stomping Grounds. How did that feel when you got the phone call?
It it was insane, man. I actually got the call I think last year, that was saying, hey dude, we just saw, I was able to put together like a little piece, I guess not even a piece. It's just, there was 2 jumps at the bottom of a park in Boreal, Tahoe. And I did a 360 off of one and a backflip off the next one. And I posted it online, and that same day, you know, Scott Gaffney, I had met him a few times before. He gave me a pair of skis, and I was looking for his movies from the Squallywood book, so I could line up the lines that are mentioned in the book and kind of get the visuals on them. He reached out. He's like, Jay, you're nuts, man. Like, we got to get you on. So he passed the videos on, and we kind of kept in touch about that. But then COVID shut everything down. So we got in contact this last year, 2021, and he's like, dude, let's do it. I got the camera. When he in town? And it was kind of surreal, man. I felt very self-conscious getting in front of the camera. I think it took me like 5 tries to nail the first trick, and I'm just like, dude, I land this every single try. What's happening? And kind of sunk into it, and the rest, it's I guess history at this point. But it was wild.
I mean, so they came to you and you were skiing in hometown court, right? So it was, but that the pressure that comes from it, and as somebody who grew up watching ski films, which I'm sure you've watched tons now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have that camera moment happen, you choke. I mean, it happens. Like I do it in the kitchen, it happens in life. But to have that opportunity to play in your own backyard and show the world what can be done is amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of big for me too, because they're like, hey, what jumps do you want? We're gonna build some stuff at the park for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I just do the jumps that are here, so I had to kind of do some research and find a couple little features that were like different than what we normally had. And they built them, and then we got early up, so I'm up there at 7:30 in the morning. It's icy, there's nobody else here, and they're like, okay guys, we got like 30 minutes until we can get, like 30 minutes until no one's here to get the shot. I'm like, 30 minutes? I haven't even warmed up. Like, what are you talking? I haven't even done these jumps yet.
You're talking about the park, which, for folks who don't know, 7:30 in the morning at any resort, it's a fucking boilerplate, because the sun isn't coming out, hasn't softened up the snow, and your first few turns are gonna suck. It's gonna you're just gonna skid everywhere. It doesn't matter how great you are. And that's rough. And if you hit the deck, it's extra hard.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had those things going on, plus there's like Scott with his camera, and then Kate Abraham, K-Bro. She's the wife of one of my high fives buddies, amazing photographer up there. There's like another, I'm just sitting here like, you guys are all here waiting on me to land this, like, damn it.
What feature did they build for you? Was it the hip? Was it that hip jump?
So the hip was built for, I think it was an Oakley hip contest, snowboarding hip contest, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But they built this kind of like wedge deal that like comes up on one side, that there's an overhead view where I do a 360 over that. And then they also built the one that has like the gap to the whale tail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one. So that one was cool. It's just, it took me a couple tries to get the speed right, and I just kept going so fast. I was kind of almost overshooting it. I had to go so slow to get onto that thing. It took me maybe 8 tries to really nail the speed, and after that it was game on. But it's I don't know. I was really self-conscious, and as soon as that faded away, I was like, dude, just be quiet. You got this. I turned on some music, and I'm like, all right, cool. Flowed into it, and it was done from there on. I was landing it and into the swing of things.
So like that first, and I think a lot of people, I talk about the flow state with a lot. And that happens in cooking, when you get in the groove and you just shut everything off and you're just flying. The only thing I hear is the expediter, what food's needed, and my teammates next to me, and you're cooking and it just flows and it's great, right?
Yeah.
Same thing when you're trying to do what you were doing for Stomping Grounds, you got to hit the trick. So it's like, as soon as you hit it that first time, then the flow kicks and then it just goes.
Yeah. I've got a weird I've got like a I guess it's not weird, but I've got a thing from high school where I was in wrestling, and I had that deal with my coach where everything that's going on, that's the only voice you hear when you're on the mat. And he had this deal, there's 3 periods in wrestling, and then there's overtime if you make it to overtime. And I just, for most of my adult life, I've used his like saying of like, this is just first period, you still got second period coming. So like whenever stuff's getting rough, I'm like, all right, it's only first period, I still got 2 more periods in overtime. Like it helps me to kind of like dial it in, rein it back, and kind of focus, like you're in it for the long haul. Like you're gonna make it through. You just have to have that mental toughness and get there,
So let's talk about some of those lines up on Palisades. And now for folks out there that don't know, Palisades, Squaw has renamed itself Palisades, which is great. But Palisades are a very special area at the mountain, which is this just beautiful cliff couloir section, which is, I would say, pivotal in the ski world, right? I mean, it changed the game. It started with Scott Schmidt, and prior to them, there were people doing flips. Yes, in the late 70s, people were doing flips on 215s, right? Skinny skis. But then you had Scott Schmidt with Warren Miller, and then Glenn Plake with Greg Stump films come in, and those shoots were really pivotal in changing the direction of the sport. Then the term extreme skiing came into play. Then you had Shane McConkey come over and just throw the world into turmoil from his escapades in the Palisades. So what is it like? And let's be honest, that is no joke up there. Right?
Yeah.
They're narrow. It's a huge cornice ridge. Sometimes it's wind blown, sometimes it's not. It depends on if it's been, what the weather's like. But that's a steep line. What does that feel like? Because you had snowboarded before and you understand, the difference. So you're sitting, the visual, the feel, it's totally new.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean, with the snowboard, you can click out pretty easy and take a look over the edge, or on skis, you can kind of hike down and then like hike back up. On the sit ski, my head is just over hip height. If it's like a roller, I can't really see what I'm looking into. So I gotta trust the people I'm with, or trust myself to know exactly where I'm at, to be in the right spots. Because any movement to the right or left, I mean, some of these things you're lining up, it's pretty. You got a narrow window.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Narrow window. We're talking narrow window. Where some of these couloirs are narrower than cars.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're lucky if you get a wide one, right? But then you got some really narrow chutes in there that open up, they bottleneck. But that's a really big undertaking. And I don't think people realize, like, I've been skiing since I've been 3. I'm petrified. I've always wanted to. I've dreamed of it. It was something I looked up to and always wanted to do. I don't think I could get up there and do it.
It's so I've only been up on Palisades one time. I was up there with my sister, and she helped me hike my rig up. I carried her snowboard, and we got to the top, man, and the wind was just whipping over the top, and we looked at each other like, you down still? And we ended up going to this chute called National Chute. It's the most wide open and straightforward chute that you can take down. It's basically like the intro to Palisades, and Palisades is on top of Siberia Ridge, and Siberia is a pretty steep hill as it is. So when you're sitting underneath the Palisades looking up, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, I can do that. But you're not taking into account the angle that you're already sitting at. Like, when you get up there, it's so steep. It's a pretty wild thing to look down at and be like, oh, this is what we're doing? I don't know. So we get into it. We made a few turns and got down. We're like high-fiving, all stoked. But like, it's definitely something that I think that was a couple of years ago. My experience level has changed a lot since then. I feel like I'm ready to go back up, and I think this season is going to be the one for it. But it's definitely, they're an iconic little ridgeline for sure.
And are you with this season open? I mean, we had a banner December. Let's just snowfall breaking all records. I mean, it's been insane up there. And we chatted the other day, and I was over in South Lake, and we were both heading out for the morning when we were chatting about getting on this call. How often are you on the mountain? Are you out there every day?
Yeah, whenever I don't have anything else to do, or if conditions are appropriate, I go out for at least 2 hours. It's easy enough to just get out, do a couple runs. I'm 15 minutes from the hill, so from my car to the parking lot and to the Funitel, we're looking at 20 minutes, and I'm on the lift. I don't really have an excuse not to go, unless it's just like 80% of the mountain's shut down because of wind.
That definitely has been a thing this year.
Yeah.
So what are your goals coming up now? I mean, are we going to see you in another film this year? Is that conversation piece already happening? Because I hope it is, because it was so rad to watch.
Yeah, I hesitate to say like 100% on any of this stuff, but I've talked to Scott at the premiere, and he was like, yeah, man. I was like, dude, I'd love to do this again if you're down. He's like, I'm super down. So hopefully we got another MSP thing in the works. Talking with a couple of different companies as far as sponsorship goes. because the sponsor dollars go a long way into making the different parts available, travel budgets and whatnot. So yeah, I'm training for it as if it's going to happen. I've got a couple events that are coming up in the next few months that aren't confirmed yet. So I really, it's one of those things I don't want to be like, yeah, it's happening.
Don't jinx it. We won't jinx it.
Go through for some reason. So, there are things on the plate, but yeah, in the immediate future, I've got a new sitski coming on Thursday. So tomorrow, actually, it gets here. Be putting that thing together and taking it out on Friday. It's a third of the weight. It's a third less than what my current rig weighs. I got my weighs like 34, 36 pounds with the ski, and this is going to weigh 22 pounds without the ski. So
that's great. So yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the sitski and the fabrication of it? I mean, or is it a titanium and carbon mix, or is there a lot of steel? I think for a lot of folks, I mean, you have a suspension system built in there. For people who downhill mountain bike, there's definitely, there's air fill, there's oil, there's spring, there's combo. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of things to take in.
Yes. So the current setup is aluminum frame with, I've got a steel foot plate on there to kind of keep my feet protected. There's an Elka Stage 5. I think it's an ATV shock, actually. It's an oil filled reservoir, high speed, low speed, compression adjustable, as well as rebound adjustability. So you can fine tune that for whatever you're looking to ride. I think it's got 6 inches of travel, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. The new one is going to be a Fox downhill mountain bike shock, and I'm not sure if it's oil or air. I think it's oil, but I'm not 100%. I'll find out tomorrow. But yeah, it's got an extra 2 inches of travel on it. We kind of redesigned the sit ski to fit what I'm doing. I was blowing out the weld on the bottom of this sit ski on one of the arms that connect to the foot plate. I was just, the impacts were kind of stacking up and blowing this thing out. So he changed it to, I'm not sure. I think it's steel on the sides with billeted arms that go up to the legs. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot more sturdy for what we're doing with it.
Well, I mean, you're definitely putting them to the test. I mean, that's for sure. There's not many folks that are pushing the limits like yourself. So goals wise, when you're out there and you got a new ski, I mean, are you working with, are you trying different ski widths? Are you trying different ski lengths, or are you staying pretty standard to what you're comfortable with at this point?
I like to ride mostly off piste and in the park. So I found like a 108 to a 116 millimeter like waist on the ski is pretty good for what I'm looking at. I've been stuck on the Armada JJ for a couple of years now. It's killer for what I'm doing. It's flexible enough, but it's still firm enough to where I can rip turns on groomers if I want to. In park, out of park. It's pretty decent on POW. I think I might need to try something a little wider. Just because it's a single ski and I tend to sink. But yeah, I pretty much I found that my length is like 185. It's long enough to where I'm not like going over the ski whenever I'm dumping forward, and I got pretty decent control. But yeah, the new sit ski, I don't know. I think that that extra weight loss is going to help me with the spins and speeding up some tricks, so I can kind of keep the progression going there.
What is the response from a lot of folks at the mountain? I mean, especially kids, I'm sure, are totally stoked watching you when you come flying through the park. Their heads are blown. What is that like? And there's such a unique support system up where you are, and especially skiing at Palisades. There's so many brilliant athletes there that mountain breeds the best, right? And you're in the epicenter of it all. But having all that kind of support there must just make it so much, one, more fun, and two, just allowing you to push yourself and be surrounded by people that have that support.
It's been cool, man. I never started this to gain attention or to progress the sport or anything like that. It's kind of come organically. As I've pushed myself, I've broken boundaries of what was previously thought possible on this, and that the feedback and response that I've gotten from that was crazy. The kids absolutely in the park, they love it. I get people coming up to me, adults too, they're like, oh man, you just did a 360. That's inspirational. Like, I got no excuse not to try it. It's kind of cool. They're pretty stoked. So it's neat to see like the different I don't know, joy and effect that I'm having on people. What's big for me is in the sit skiing community. I'm getting reached out to by a lot of people who are in similar positions or looking to get into sit skiing, or are already in sit skiing and they're racing and never really saw a path forward in free riding. They're kind of blown away. They're like, what, how do you do this? So I'm like getting ready to do a tutorial course for, progressions for spins and flips and whatnot, to kind of help promote the sport evolving in this way. And I think that the response and the reactions from a lot of these people, it suggests that we're moving in that direction. We're gonna have a crew of people doing the same things I'm doing in the park here in the next couple of years.
I think that's really powerful what you just said. I mean, and I really respect that. You didn't get into this to be in films and for accolades and pats on the back. And I think you got into it to be happy and to have fun.
Yeah.
With that came everything else, because you are happy and it made for a whole new world for you, which I think is really awesome and really, really powerful. I think it inspired me when I watched you and Stomping Grounds. My head exploded. I couldn't fathom that idea of how to start that process from going from your accident to getting on the sit ski to saying, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to throw a fucking backflip today. Like, I have no excuse, right? Other than I'm scared shitless, Yeah. I think it's a really, really powerful message, that anything can be done if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, no, man, it's cool. I'm definitely scared shitless when I do this stuff too. It didn't come without fear. It was all little steps, baby steps that kind of built into bigger things, and that confidence built up. And it's like, all right, I think I got this, but I hope I do.
So to give folks an idea, when people are doing these ski films, all anybody ever sees is the perfect line, right? Like that's what makes the big, it's like the cover of the film or like your shit. It doesn't happen like that, right? When you mentioned it a little bit earlier, you had a couple biffs get that shot, but like it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you like to land a 360 or to land the flip. How many times did it take you to actually feel comfortable enough to throw it in a park, knowing the landing was going to be a lot harder than, learning on a POW day or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I took my progression really slow and was learning little basic stuff, how to ride backwards, because the first thing I did was 180, and I had seen a 180 done, so I knew it could be done. I'm like, okay, and I'm taking it off these little jumps, and I started over rotating, and that's where the thought clicked in. I'm like, if I'm over rotating a 180, trying really hard not to over rotate, what if I just tried to take that through and land not riding switch, land at 360? And it came with a lot of downhill edge slams where my edge that was on the low side of me was hitting the ground, followed by my shoulder and head immediately. But I waited until spring, when it was real slushy and like good conditions to fall, like where I'm not hitting that boilerplate or that like firm hard pack, landing area. It was probably a wise decision on my part to do that, because I think there was probably 10 or 15 like there's probably 3 or 4 really good slams before I realized to not hit my downhill edge, lean uphill. And then after that, I'm still hitting hard and kind of like, all right, next one. All right, next one. It's yeah, it's like a little bit of commitment. But after that first one, I knew it could happen. And it was just locked in. I'm like, I'm doing this no matter what. I'm going to land this.
So what does your parents think? I have to ask this because they've gone through, let's be real honest here. They've gone through the trauma of you having your accident. And now your mom said, go try sit skiing. And now she's like, holy shit, what the hell did I tell him to do? He's doing backflips. What is wrong with me?
When I was a kid, my mom put me in gymnastics. Like she said that I was real wild. I was climbing on things, jumping off the stuff. And she's like, you need to learn how to do this safely. So they've always known that I've had that more acrobatic style in mind. All the way through my adult years, I was doing flips off of whatever I could jump off of, off my truck, off of picnic benches, on the ground, like whatever. So I think it wasn't a surprise when I told them that I was going to start doing this. There was definitely concern up front because, they saw me kind of not really able to get around very well. And now I'm on a sit ski and I'm like nimble again, and I'm able to kind of maneuver. I think at first they were pretty concerned, like, you can get hurt worse, right? Like, you could break your back again, And I'm like, yeah, I do know that. But like, I'm out here every day doing this stuff like as safely as I possibly can. At some point, I got to push the envelope a little bit, calculated risks. And I think that they trust my judgment quite a bit as far as that stuff goes, especially after seeing the successful track record in sit skiing. They're like, okay, they find out about it after I do it. So I'm obviously safe.
That's amazing. Hey, mom, check out this film. What
Yeah, no, my mom's super supportive. She came out here and has skied with me a couple times. They were out here actually while we were filming the first bit of that. Her and my sister, my girlfriend, were out here, and they, she's excited. She's happy to see me happy, and to see me like being successful, I guess, at what I'm trying. I mean, obviously, like I said, this was never a goal or it was never a thought in my mind when I started that I was going to be doing this. But now that it is, and now that it's very clear that like there's a path here, I think she's probably one of my biggest supporters as far like she's hit me up, hey, did you get a hold of the Paralympic coach and see if you guys can talk about getting free riding into the Paralympic? You know what I mean? She's pushing me. Yeah.
Oh man. So for one, I'm hoping you come up this winter, and I'd love to cut some turns with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm a telly guy. I'm going to be a lot slower than you because you're going to have a feeling you're going to rip it. But I'd love to come up and cut some turns with you because it's just, I love being in the snow, and the magic that it creates is just pretty powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it, man. Like I said, I'm here for most of the year. There's going to be a couple ins and outs, but let's touch base and absolutely make it happen.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Are you ready for the quick fire?
All right, let's do it.
Super easy, right? Okay. Hamburger, hot dog.
Hamburger.
Ketchup, mustard.
Ketchup.
French fry, onion rings.
French fry.
Okay. Nigiri, sashimi.
Ooh, sashimi. That's the one without the rice, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sea urchin, caviar.
I'm not a big fan of either. Actually, no, to be fair, I haven't tried caviar.
There's no wrong answers, so don't. It's just personal preference. Everybody, it's interesting to see people's different thought process.
Let's go caviar. I think I'd like that better. I know, unpopular opinion.
It's fun. It's this. I do this with everybody, so it's kind of all over the place. Dark beer, light beer.
Light beer.
Brown spirits, white spirits.
Brown spirits.
Which brown spirit?
Whiskey or bourbon. Kind of go through phases.
Red wine, white wine.
Red wine.
It's getting a calzone or pizza.
Ooh, depends on where you get the calzone, man, but pizza usually.
Oh wow, it's always fun to see how people react to this, right? It's like you get what, who, now I forgot. Okay, dumplings, ravioli.
Dumplings.
Noodles, pasta.
Noodles.
It's interesting, right? You think about that.
Yeah.
Both, one took from the other. So then you've got like this, ooh, is it ramen? Is it pho? Is it, or what about spaghetti? It's like you play this game. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. I'm a big pho guy myself, and I love ramens, and I think fettuccine is a pasta, right? But it's also kind of more noodly.
No, I mean, well, that's the thing. And it's a funny process, right? Pasta being your traditional Italian style. And when you say noodles, people think automatically they go towards rice noodles or Asian noodles, right? But also, some people call pasta noodles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's me.
In Italy, it's just pasta.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Nice.
Chocolate, fruit.
Ooh, fruit.
That's the one. Coffee, tea.
Tea.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a big coffee guy, man. It makes my heart just.
There you go. That answers that. Raw clams or raw oysters?
Raw oysters. I've never had raw clams.
Oh wow, in Florida, that's a pretty big thing. In Florida, I grew up in the Northeast, so
Actually, you know what? Yeah, little neck, but they weren't raw, were they? I don't think they were raw.
well, you can have them baked right on the half shell clams casino, or you can have them raw. I used to have them raw as a kid.
Yeah, we got an oyster bar in the town that I grew up in. Oof, so good. Grandma Georgie's.
It's beef or pork,
Usually beef,
chicken or duck.
chicken. I say that just because I have it the most, but I had some duck the other night and it was amazing.
And that's the thing, it's like like I said, there's no wrong answer. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Favorite fast food?
Chick-fil-A.
Wow, you're my son's favorite now. He makes me do that on the trip up north every single time.
You stop in Roseville or whatever?
No, we stop in Folsom.
There's one right. Oh, I guess are you down in the Bay? Where are you at?
Yeah, we're in SF, so we drive up from and head up 50 and then stop in Folsom.
Up 50, that makes sense. Yeah, because off 80, there's one right off Roseville.
Favorite junk food?
Man, I don't know. I've been on a chip kick. I like goldfish though.
Goldfish.
Yeah, the pizza ones.
They're good. The problem is they're crushable and you can just keep going.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got a bag right here. I'm like halfway through. It's 3 days in.
Oh my God. Awesome. Well, if people want to follow you on Instagram, what's the best way?
It's JRawe1695, JAYRAWE 1695.
And definitely they should all check you out on Stomping Grounds for sure. And I'm actually going to put a link to that segment on this podcast for people to watch. Folks, there's a lot of really great information out there. And I think, what Jay's done is really shaping a whole new style of skiing and really helping a lot of people out there get out, enjoy themselves, have fun after they were told they might not be able to. So Jay, is there anybody out there that you think people can look towards or really work with to help get other people on sit skis? I know there's High Five, correct? Today.
Yes, so the High Fives Foundation is a great resource if you've been injured in mountain sports. I think they're also they include military as well. So anybody with disabilities from the military, traumatic brain injuries, they do a lot to help the community. I think they have over 400 athletes now that they've been helping support. They provide resources like grants for equipment or for training. They do camps to kind of give you a taste of what the different sports are to see if you like it, and then they can help you get into it. It's an amazing group of people based out of Truckee, but they work with people all over the country. I'm not sure if they do international, but I do know it's nationwide.
Awesome. Jay, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you've got to get going. You've got to get to the mountain and you got to cut some turns today. I'm jealous. I'm going to be here. I'm going to go sit on an indoor trainer in my garage. So, but thanks again for joining us and I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to that day when we get to cut some turns together.
Yeah, same, man. Thank you so much.